Malia Brady. I'm a certified personal trainer, certified nutritional therapist, and I'm also an online health and fitness coach. I know I usually make these videos about carbs and protein and macros and all that stuff, but I want to talk about something that hits a little close to home for me. I feel like as, maybe a part of my profession, I'm held to kind of a higher standard than most. I don't know if people think that I just eat kale and quinoa all the time. But this is something that I've been struggling with, and I wanted to make a video because I know that other people do too. So I think I've mentioned in some of my posts that I'm studying for another nutritional certification right now. And one of the topics we're covering is food addiction. And I have never wanted to classify myself as a person who's addicted to food. One, I know that doctors and psychiatrists probably hate it when you try to self-diagnose based on something you've Googled or whatever. So I try to avoid that. Second, I am kind of ashamed of this, and I think it's because of my profession. I'm supposed to be one of the healthiest people in the world. I preach this healthy lifestyle to people, and it's embarrassing to me that I still struggle with it. I mean, some days are better than others. I don't know if I will ever not face this, but I do, and I wish I didn't, but I am learning ways to cope with this. So anyway, as part of this this certification, we're learning about it, and it's just been really fascinating to me, and I wanted to share kind of some of the things that that I've learned. So, what a food addiction is, it's characterized by having a compulsive and obsessive relationship with food. Have you ever heard the expression, you don't want to live to eat, you eat to live? And people with a food addiction kind of have that mixed up. You think about food all the time, obsess about food. What are you going to eat next? When's your next meal? And I definitely fall into that category. And I have, since I was a kid, I used to sneak junk food in my room late at night. And it was all about sneaking and hiding. And I still struggle with this to this day as an adult, this just relationship with food where it's not just fuel, it's comfort, stress relief. So it's something that I'm still working on overcoming. So a person with a food addiction may or may not have a binge eating issue as well. People with food addictions can be very overweight or obese, which I think most people expect. They can also be very thin. A person with a food addiction often eats past the point of fullness because, like I said, food is not just being used as fuel in a person with a food addiction. So the reason this has come to the forefront lately is that there's been quite a bit of research done on this. And the research is showing lots of similarities to other substance addictions like drugs and alcohol. That's because the neural processes going on in a person with a food addiction are very similar to those in a person who's addicted to drugs or alcohol. Some of the symptoms of food addiction are very similar to drug and other substance addictions. A person with a food addiction might eat too much despite the consequences to their health. They might be gaining a lot of weight. Me, I used to weigh almost 300 pounds, and I didn't get that way by eating salads and broccoli. And you could be having diabetes, high blood pressure, but you continue to eat despite those things happening. You may have guilt about your eating or overeating. You might experience shame when you make a bad choice or give into a craving. And it's a cycle that's really, really hard to break. You may have an increased urge to eat certain foods when you're actually trying to cut back on them. They just call your name louder and louder. There might be some psychological problems by food and eating, depression, anxiety, and things like that, just based off of this obsession with food. You may even have the reduced ability to function effectively. I know sometimes I get kind of nervous about going in social settings, going out to dinner with friends, or even, hanging out with my husband, or what if he orders a pizza? Am I going to have any? Am I going to eat 10 slices of pizza? It makes me kind of nervous, but sometimes people with this addiction can really have a hard time functioning because of it. So they also experience desensitization. So that means that, what one piece of chocolate used to do, now it takes 5 pieces of chocolate to get that same effect. Similar to drug use, you get an increased tolerance. And the same thing happens in the minds of food addicts. So, food addicts experience normally really intense cravings and reduced control for those cravings. They also might just be especially reactive to sensory triggers. So things like sight, smell, even sounds. You weren't even thinking about getting a donut until you walk by a donut shop and you smell those Krispy Kremes cooking up. But, other people can be like, oh man, that smells good, and walk by. And a person with a food addiction cannot function unless they get that donut that they just smelled. So they might just be especially sensitive to those triggers. So that's a little bit about what a food addiction is. So now we need to know, how can we overcome that? How can you deal with it? And I don't know if it's something that has a cure. If this is something that you are really struggling with, I really encourage you to seek the advice of a qualified medical professional who can help you with this. Like I said, I'm just a personal trainer, and I'm somebody who deals with this myself. So I'm just learning just some ways to cope with this. So something that we recommend for people with food addiction is a high volume diet of low glycemic index foods. So basically just tons of fruits and vegetables, because many food addicts just enjoy that sensation of just eating. That's what I feel like. I feel like I could just eat constantly. But if you're filling up on things like, fruits and vegetables, you'll still get that sensation of eating, but it's going to be things that aren't going to affect you quite as much. And low glycemic index foods, so that you're not riding that blood sugar roller coaster that can make it so hard to make healthy choices. Also reduced meal frequency. So have a few big meals per day rather than just mindlessly snacking all day long and never really getting full. So 3 square meals a day is something that's a good idea for people with food addictions. Also, there's an kind of an idea of something called meal monotony. And this is something I've been practicing, and it's actually really helping me. So you see these pictures of my meal prepped foods. I basically eat the same thing every day. I mean, it's good. I like it. It tastes good. But some studies have shown that increased variety can cause you to overeat. So think of going to an awesome buffet. You feel like, oh man, I got to try a little bit of everything. And rather than just eating enough to get full, you're going to end up overindulging because there's so much to choose from. Same thing, in your house, keep a very small variety of foods. If you've got an entire bowl of apples sitting out, it's not going to be as easy for you to overeat as if you've got snacks all over the place, all different kinds of things to choose from. So just keep it really simple. There was a study done with some subjects, and they got a food reward after completing a task. I think it was macaroni and cheese. And some of the subjects in the group received it once a week, and some of the subjects received it every single day, the same little quantity of macaroni and cheese. And they found that the people who got it, they were allowed to eat as much as they wanted as well. It was just a little bit, but if they wanted more, they could have more. So the people who got it every single day actually kind of got sick of it, I guess, because they started eating less and less of it as they had it every single day. And the people who got it once a week, they kept eating just as much every week because they're really looking forward to it. It seemed like a really special treat. So they say to kind of desensitize yourself to it by having a small amount of whatever this food trigger is for you, until your brain kind of gets bored of it. That's why I don't really eat yogurt that much anymore. I just ate it so much, I'm sick of it and I don't want it anymore. Word of caution though, what they did find in this study is that does not really work with sugar. Sugar cravings tend to beget more sugar cravings. Sugar is a really different, special animal. The way to break sugar cravings is to eat less sugar. That's really the long and short of it. There is no desensitization to sugar cravings, is what these studies are finding. So you just want to reduce your access to foods like that. So basically what this research all seemed to indicate, the best strategy for people dealing with a food addiction are to reduce your food choices, have less food, definitely no tempting food in your house. But if you're a person who struggles with food addiction, you could potentially, binge on chicken breast or something, just because it's there, just because it's food. So you want to have reduced access to food and a different variety of food in your house. Cut out those high sugar foods. There is no way to break a sugar craving and sugar addiction by eating more sugar. You just got to eat less of them. Increased meal monotony, eating the same thing over and over again seems to help. And all that seems to reduce the addictive response. So like I said, I am not a doctor. I don't know if there's a way to say, I'm totally cured of that food addiction. But these are just some strategies that I've learned in the course of studying for this certification, that I've seen that people are able to cope with these things and manage these. So like I said, this is something that I have been dealing with for a really long time. And, I'm kind of embarrassed by it, but I am coming clean with it today, and I just wanted to share these things with you in the hopes that this could help somebody else who might be dealing with a similar issue. I know it's not easy, but in the end, our health is worth it. Reaching our goals is worth it. So if you have ever struggled with an issue like this, I would love to talk to you about it. Maybe we could help each other out with some pointers. So send me a message, comment on this video. Feel free to share it to anybody you think might be struggling with some of these issues. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.